2026 working meeting to order. Jim will lead us in this
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mission statement: Lincoln County Schools are equipping students to learn and conquer to succeed. Mission statement: the mission of Lincoln County Schools, in partnership with students, staff, parents, and the community, is to equip students with the skills necessary to be lifelong productive citizens in an ever-changing global society.
Any questions, anything else before we set the agenda? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Tyler, second.
I'll second.
Gloria, vote Gloria.
Yes.
Philip.
Yes.
Jan.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
And I vote yes. 3 action items, 3A, budget revision for early childhood, fiscal year 25 budget. Kim.
So the eligible program is requesting approval to the budget revision for this school year. The amendment would decrease the amount allocated for fringe benefits and increase the amount for equipment in the amount of $14,232. You received the budget justification in the narrative, so it explains it a little more in it. But in other words, we had a vacancy. We always estimate that those benefits and that benefit package within whenever we have that vacancy. So there was extra money allocated in that area, like the addition of over for equipment. So the funding source would be for the fiscal year 25 Head Start grant.
Any questions? Do you hear a motion to approve the revised fiscal year 25 early childhood budget? Philip, Jan, second. Vote Gloria.
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Jan.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Jan. 3B, Chromebook purchase, Brad.
Our boy Keith has been working hard on top of these prices. So we're looking to purchase 505 Chromebooks at the price of $230 per device. The reason we urgently added it to this working meeting as an action item is the price is going up $315 in inventories. Everyone's shopping this time of year. As you know, we're a one-to-one program. This helps us. This is a number that talking about Hank and Leanne and Bruce, we need to work around this number, maybe a little more some years, depending on enrollment, to keep the machines moving and be in the shape we need to be in. So we feel comfortable with that number, and that's a really good price right now. So that's for 505 devices, and then also we're purchasing a few licenses that we need. We have quite a few. That's the number you see there is what we need. I think 75.
Yes.
75 licenses in the devices.
Are these just district wide or?
Yeah. So what we're looking at doing, Tyler, is, of course, ninth grade already gets one they keep through. And kind of what our long-term plan is, it's gonna take us years to get it rolling, and we've talked to Bill a lot too. We wanna have enough new ones coming in to sixth grade too, and they'll keep it through ninth. They'll still have 2 or 3 good years left. We'll take them back when they go to high school. We'll recirculate those back in the elementary who don't use them quite as much. And that's the plan we've seen some other districts doing. And quite frankly, we've just never had a sustainable plan that you can comfortably work with. And that's kind of the number it's gonna take to do it. So Leanne's comfortable with it, using our fees we collect, and then also the money we have through technology with KDPS. So between those two things, it's something I think is doable, and I think it's something that would be good for the district. I know Bill's felt adamant about it. He and I had several discussions over last year, and I think it'd be a good plan.
What's the life expectancy on this, assuming?
Depends on age, really, Philip, from what I've gathered, and I'll let Keith speak too, but if it's taken care of, and honestly, the irony is elementary kids take the best care of them because they're not taking them home all the time or not home all the time. You'll see 6 or 7 good years
Oh, yeah. I
for
mean,
elementary.
we've got some that's 8 or 9 years on them.
Keith's definition of good might vary from.
Well, elementary school takes much better care than any other grade school.
All kidding aside, that's why we think this is a good plan. 3 years there, and then we'll recirculate them back. And then we can also fill in as we need. Pete keeps a little bit of inventory. They're constantly working and fixing machines. And we can always pick a few up here and there if we feel like we need to adjust on the fly. But I think this is a good starting point for us to have a sustainable plan going forward.
And when I said 8 or 9 years, that's only a very small few that have that.
Well, anything over 3 would surprise me.
Yeah.
We switched, we don't send them home anymore, we're at refuge, and, it's made the biggest difference.
Yes.
And we've talked about some of that too.
So we just, this year, we stopped sending them home.
And that's why those elementary do better.
And we're also charged first thing in the morning, you don't have to build 100 people, don't have cart truck permits. But it's made a big difference in not being damaged.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve the purchase of 505 Chromebooks? Philip, second.
I'll say,
Tyler, vote Gloria,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Jan,
Yes.
Tyler,
yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you, Brad. 3C, internet services.
Yep, this is for FiberNet, the internet service provider. This has been out by Steve Smith, who kind of handles the E-rate stuff for the district. They put this out on the E-rate website. I think we had two bids come in. FiberNet was low, and luckily that's who we've been using for several years.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know how many years. They seem to do a good job, good response time. Price decrease of $63 a month. It actually went down a little bit with this new contract. It's $12,822.01. And the way that works, we pay that throughout the year. Then at the end of the year, we turn that in through our E-rate program. We get 90% reimbursement on that. So that number you're seeing is what we'll pay, but then when we do our paperwork, turn our app in, we should get 90% of that back. So we're just asking that you approve the FiberNet contract.
So I have some questions and comments. The 90% reimbursement changes my thought process on some of this, because I wasn't aware of that, but I have still got a few questions I gotta ask. So the first question is in the contract, it says in there that there could be charges for excess usage. Have we experienced that before? What is that based on? How do they determine?
Not to my knowledge, Philip, I'll let Leanne speak because you would see that.
I've never seen that. So no.
Okay, that's good, because that eliminates like 5 questions. The other question I had is the contract says that even if we go all the way through the contract, if we decide not to auto-renew, we still have to pay 2 months worth of services to get out of the contract, which is $24,000. I don't really like that. I don't like the idea of, hey, I use your product, cool, we're all good. Let me just go ahead and give you $24,000 invoice right on to auto-renew. Is there any way of getting around that?
It really isn't. That's typical. Some are worse than 2 months' worth. Some of these are, you all have slightly better wording than some of them, it's a 5-year agreement that you have to try to cancel. You all have a 1-year renewable, and if you don't renew, there's that penalty. But the reason for that penalty is they are investing hardware and time, installation time. They need to get the value out of what they've invested, and they invest that based on the expectation of 5 years. And if you eliminate early, they're losing some of the profit that they negotiated for. So it really is, it's allowing them to still receive that benefit of the investment they made at the front end, because they can't install stuff in slow motion over the course of 5 years. They have to have everything ready to go on day one. So they're really recouping that, where they're not, if they don't get to serve the full 5 years, they still need to recoup what they expended on the front end on it, equipment and installation and maintenance.
Okay, so that makes sense. I guess my follow-up question to that would be then, how long have we used these guys? Because you said we've been using them before, are we not at that 5-year mark?
You know,
now?
Keith, I
This
think
is the beginning of a new 5-year mark.
So what upgrades are we getting to warrant the extra $24,000 now? So I get it the first time, but what you said makes sense. Now that we've completed that 5-year contract, are we getting some upgrades, or are we just giving them?
So I'm pretty sure they upgraded a lot of our fiber just last year. And a lot of our internal stuff I don't think they actually come from them. That's like, we get our switches from Fortinet, but the switches are no good without them.
Yeah, I don't know the standard set up for those contracts? Or, I understand what you're saying, but is the standard set up?
I'm pretty sure they upgraded a lot of our fiber.
In comparison, we received two bids. The other bid we received was for $26,055 a month. So this was substantially less than that, just as a comparison.
But, well, yeah, I mean, that's good. I guess I would just focus with the statement of this coverage outside the end of the, that's the way it needs to
What's that?
The cancellation.
be. The cancellation policy.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, you would think that we had met that equilibrium where that 2 months of, we're not gonna use you anymore, we can figure out a contract and fulfill the
Their obligation under this contract is an uptime guarantee, so if any equipment, anything goes down, they're having to constantly keep things
Yeah.
maintained and updated, so there will be ongoing investment by them, because you can't go a week without everything working, you can't go a week without internet connectivity, so it's the active service. I don't know any of the details of that, of how frequently they're having to actually swap out anything or maintain things, but if you ever cancel with them, during the life of this, the next closest competitor is so much higher than that. We only pay that penalty if we cancel on them.
Right.
And then
right now,
infrastructure wise,
they're-
it would be tough, it would take, it may would take a layover a couple months to even work something out anyways, how I kind of looked at it, I hadn't thought about that.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for not using them, I was just trying to get an understanding of how that contract's written.
And the way these E-rate deals work too, Philip, is it's some of this new to me too, KDE also looks through this before they want us to bring it even to you guys, and they even approve this agreement too, so I do feel like, what Grant is saying, it's probably pretty standard, even though it is something different than what you normally see. But I'm not real familiar with the world of fiber myself, so.
Just to speak to the 90% piece, in February, we received a check that was for the previous year. It's for $139,000. So, like you said, we only end up paying 10% of what this actually is.
Is it 90% standard, or will we get 90% because of the contract?
It's been 90% since I've been here, maybe 80% the first year I was here, but it's kind of you have to input a lot of information into a form, 471. And once you input that in, you come with your percentage of what our reimbursement will be. So I think it's been 90% for probably the past 4 years.
It's fair, I mean, I think all the answers that everybody provided were more than equitable for what I was looking for, it's just.
And it can be one of those things, next time we look at it, we can mention it and see where it goes.
Well, when we're talking about having possibly make cuts and being more efficient with our money, I think I just felt like maybe this is one more area where we had an opportunity to say potential, should something come up where we didn't want it, but.
There aren't many things we ask that you ought to pay. Well, we're gonna get almost all this back, so it becomes a little bit of a different
No,
story.
that does take the game.
It does.
Yeah, it was definitely a game changer.
But it's not written in there, because obviously it's at the end of the year when you do the E-rate, that's why it's not contractually written in there.
Any other questions?
Just one addition to that, that's why part of the contract is they have to remain, the company has to remain E-rate eligible the entire life of the contract, because that's their promise to us that we qualify for that rebate. And if they don't maintain that, you all get to cancel without penalty. So that's where it works the other
Yeah,
direction.
that's an important piece, too. Thank you for bringing that up.
Your motion to approve the agreement with FiberNet Communications LLC for internet services.
I'll make a motion.
Phil, second.
I'll second.
Gloria, vote Gloria,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Jan.
Yes.
Tyler, and I vote yes. Thank you, Brad.
No problem.
We'll move into discussion items for A, early childhood program 2026-2027 calendar. Jan.
The Early Childhood Program is requesting approval for a 26-27 school year calendar for students and staff for early, to start and to start before programs. So there's a total of 4 calendars. For early, our Head Start Performance Standard says we need 1,380 hours. And we have that as a that's not for students, and then 1,020 hours for preschool, which doesn't include sick days. And that's just the allotted days that we assign for students.
Any questions?
Do we have any plus time in that, should we have school days like we did with the other?
So what happens is we have 5 days there's a lot of Fridays for preschool that we don't have students that we can assign those whenever we're in the calendar. That's something that the board agrees. But we did have that as a school day for students that staff would have to add on to the end of the year. So that they're making up their time. That's for preschool. Early is not the same. Early schedule is hard, so it's one of those things that we have to add on to this week. There's like one day that we're not having it that way.
Is that adding extra time onto the day an option for this?
So I looked at that, and it's really gonna be, so if we added five, when we were talking about it earlier, if we add 5 minutes on to it, it just gives us like one day and that's it. For the whole year, so it's really not,
No,
yeah.
They really look for early head start to be a year-round program, that's why it's difficult to get all those hours in.
Yeah, and our early teachers are contracted for 189 days, whereas everyone else is 185. So they actually work for it 2 days.
Any other questions? For B, pay application number 3R for Lincoln County Head Start. Lincoln County High School renovations bid package 2, correct?
I'll do Head Start. Let's see, pay app, for renovation bid package 2, just standard, pay app for the phase 2 work. Things are progressing. Should hopefully have you all some more info on that whole bad soil deal. It went as planned from what I've gathered. Maybe even a little better. We didn't really any problems. Stem walls are in. It's progressing along. Doing well. Quick up down other stuff. Obviously, playing services are all done. We've been playing games. It's going well. I'm still working on some minor things with them on that. Bathrooms, they got their plumbing inspection here, this past week, so we'll start seeing I think over spring break, we'll see quite a bit of progress on, especially no games going on out there. So things are moving along on the pages too.
Any questions?
On a side note, Matt Pats and our lady Pats are doing really well this year, so if you have a chance to go out and see them, they're playing really well this year.
Thank you.
This is just a plug. It's free to do it this way.
4C, pay application number 8 from BPOs for Lincoln County High School renovations bid package 2, correct?
This is, I don't have the list of the details with me. Do you have them, Marilyn?
Yeah.
These are just the direct purchase orders that are outstanding that need to be paid. On the project, of course, all these been verified by popped up at the same car, so they're good to go.
Any questions? Okay, thanks, Brad. 4D, service contracts, Leanne.
All right, so we have, several service contracts, that we can extend for an additional year, which is what I'm recommending to the board. I'll read through those. Extend the following contracts for the 26-27 school year: Collins Fire Protection for extinguishers and range hood systems, Marmac Fire and Safety for monitoring fire alarms, sprinklers, and backflow preventers, Guardian Exterminating for pest control, Republic Services for waste removal, Pepsi Cola for cold drink vending, and CNN for snack vending. Who's asking that we extend those all for this year. I did reach out to the various department heads that might be impacted, so we please, we want to stick with these companies, and everyone said yes, so that's my recommendation.
Okay, 4E, vendors for bus parks.
Similarly, we're just asking to extend, to renew with these companies, it would be Bluegrass International, Stanford Automotive, Floyd Truck, Battery Warehouse, and Kimball Midwest. That would be for the bus parts and supplies.
Any questions? Okay, 4F, fuel vendors.
I'm just requesting permission to advertise for fuel vendors for the 26-27 school year. So if y'all remember the way that works, we don't ask for pricing. We're just asking for companies that would be interested in potentially supplying fuel. And then each time that we need fuel, the bus garage actually calls and gets the best pricing and uses that company. So we just kind of have an approved vendor list, and then they choose the best option whenever they have a need. So we'll just be collecting applications from companies that might be interested in vetting those through the transportation department and have you all approve those.
when we do these, and we get an approved list, like you advertise for them, any of them, fuel or the, whatever, don't we have to report that to somebody at state, so that way when we do make purchases, and they see, yep, that's on your approved list, or is that all local?
No,
I know the government that I work with, we had to do that, I was curious if that's something you guys have to do.
no, I think that would all be on the local level. I'm not aware of anything, there's nothing I report to the state that says we use these vendors or, anything like that.
Let's make it work that way.
They probably make it up in another area.
4G capital funds, Leanne.
Yeah, so I have a capital funds request for you all. If you remember, we did one of these last year. And basically what it says is we have funds available this year that we didn't use in our restricted accounts. So we didn't use for debt service that I would like to reclassify to the general fund. And so if you'll take a look at that, it kind of lists our different sources of those restricted funds, you know, how much that we had this year and then how much we paid out for debt service. So the total for the year, if you look up there at the very top, we have in fund 310, which is capital outlay, $279,732. In fund 320, our building fund, we had $2,600,183. And then if you go down to number 12, you'll see that we paid out, will pay out by the end of the year, $2,158,570 in debt service. So that leaves a balance of $720,945. And then I have to list things down there that qualify, so I just went back through and picked some things that we're allowed to say, hey, we're gonna move the funds over and use it for those expenses. So there are only certain things that KDE says you can use those for. So I just listed some things there to come up with the totals. And we don't have to have KDE approval for these anymore, but I did send it KDE anyway to say, hey, we look at this and just tell me if it looks right. And so basically with your all's approval, I'll just reclassify some funds that are restricted into our general fund. Just to give a little breathing room.
Any questions? 4H, final section 7, staffing allocation formulas, Leanne.
So I've made no changes in our staffing allocation formulas from the tentative approval. So the first one, section 7. So just asking that you all approve the final section 7 staffing allocation formulas for the 26-27 school year with no changes from the tentative. And then the next one will be section 4 and 5. And again, no changes have been made. Those are the same that you all approved back in February.
Any questions? 4J, procedure 09.36, AP.2, school-related student trip funding.
So I attached, I think you'll have a copy of that policy, or that procedure, I'm sorry, the 09.36, AP.2. And I did highlight the section that I'm referring to. It's the section that's titled state level competition. So it would be on page 2 of that procedure if you're looking at it. So basically that section says if an athletic team or any type of school group is participating in a state level competition, what the district will pay. And there are a few things that I want to tweak and then a few things just maybe clarify so that, you know, we're all on the same page. The first thing that's listed is that the district will pay for meals, $20 per day per qualifying student for overnight trips, and I don't have any desire to change that. I do want to keep that in there. I want kids that are going on these trips to have some money to spend, and typically they have also money from their team or club, and we find that this number seems to be sufficient. As a matter of fact, a lot of the groups that go on a state level competition, so the club sponsor has to like sign saying, I received this cash and I handed it out to these students, and here's what they spent. A lot of times, we get the money back at the end of the trip because they just didn't spend it all, you know, they had funds to, or food was provided by the conference, so we can, you know, whatever. So I'd like to keep that the same. I don't really want to touch that number. The next thing that is discussed, it says lodging if necessary. It says the board pays the full amount less any reimbursable amount. That's the area I would most like to look at to maybe tweak how much that we pay on that. I think that's a pretty generous policy. I reached out to several districts and I did not find a district that pays for hotel rooms for students going on state level competition of the districts that responded to me. And while I don't want to take that away totally, I just thought maybe we could put a cap on that. I would like to see that we would provide $30 per student per night, to go for a hotel room. And if you're looking at 4 kids in a room, that would be $120 to put toward that room. So I mean, if you're in a reasonably priced hotel, it's probably gonna cover the room anyway. But, so maybe we can instill a sense of, let's see if we can find the best value when we're going on a trip, not just, whatever we can find, or make sure we're putting, 4 kids in a room or whatever. And to make the teams and clubs have, some investment in the opportunities that they're getting. So, I'm happy that kids go on trips. My kids have got to go on several of these trips. But I do feel like it would not be a bad idea to have these clubs and things have a little bit more investment. And again, at $30 a night per kid, if you've got 4 kids in a room, it's still gonna cover the majority or all of the room anyway. So I would like to propose that we put a cap on that. But I do think it's a reasonable amount. And then on the transportation, the board pays the full amount, which means that we pay for the bus driver, we pay for the bus mileage, and we don't bill the $2 per mile if it's a state level competition. And I think that we would keep that the same. The only other thing I would like to do would be to clarify on a state level competition that the district does not cover the club's registration fee. So for instance, let's just say if the Beta Club is gonna participate and there's usually a fee that the club has to pay to participate or whatever, we wouldn't be responsible for that. Also, if you have a club sponsor that's a teacher and they're gonna have a sub at the school, that the district's not responsible to pay the cost of the sub for that too. It's kind of become the district pays everything when there's a state level competition, so I just kind of want to throw some clarification in there, just so that everybody's clear. Don't want to catch anybody off guard, but just to say, hey, for next year, here's what we're looking at. The districts I heard back from, I'll just give you a couple examples. I talked to Garrett County. They said for a state level competition, they pay for the bus driver costs, the bus mileage, and they do pay for the subs, but they don't pay for any registration fees, hotels, or food at all. Casey County pays for the bus driver costs and the bus mileage, but they don't pay for any hotel, no meals, no registration fees, no subs. So I think what we've been doing has been generous. I think that's a good thing, but to get us more in line with maybe what other districts are doing, I still think we're being pretty generous, but I think it's not a bad idea to kind of rein it in and bring it down to, where it's a reasonable amount. I do have some figures just in the 24-25 school year, which was last year. We spent almost $50,000 on board paid trips. Of that, a little over $20,000 was for hotels, and then there was a good chunk for meals and bus drivers. So we'll still obviously see some expense, but maybe not quite so much expense.
Any questions?
Oh, he's got a
I
question.
think it's great because everybody looks at me when it's time. This is just, I don't understand how it works. If we don't pay for a sub, who pays for it? Or how does that work?
So that would be a school level decision. So let's just say I am a FBLA sponsor and I teach, and I'm gonna have to go be at the conference, and the school would have to come up with the funds. They have instructional funds they could use for that. They may say, FBLA, you all have to cover the cost of the sub. Like, it kind of becomes a school level decision on how they would want to cover that. And honestly, the policy has never stated that we would pay for a sub. So I'm really not asking for a change on that. I'm just asking that we clarify that we don't pay for subs. But the schools do have funds that they could use towards that, a couple different options to cover something like that.
Do we know the number of events that happened last year? where that qualified under
I could go back and pull. I can tell you right off the top of my head, the groups that always do it. I mean, we typically have high school and middle school beta club, high school FBLA, FFA at the high school, archery, which could be elementary, middle, and high school. But then in, some years you'll have a group that'll qualify. You don't always know like who's gonna qualify. I'm thinking, I don't know. It could be a group that's never done it before that qualified and wants to go. But I could try to pull and tell you like in that 24-25 school year, how many groups it was.
I mean, I know it'll mainly impact the middle school and high school.
Correct. The only thing I can think of that would impact elementary would be archery.
I guess it's just, you think, how difficult it would be for our middle school and high school principals to know when they plan on spending their instructional funds, like, I have to make sure I set this much aside, not knowing
Sure.
whether they're going to state level competitions or not.
Right.
The easy answer on that one is you put it back on the program and say, hey, you guys know that in X month, you guys are going to this conference.
Mhm.
You know you're gonna be this up for these 3 days, let's start some fundraising, so you'll have money to get in there.
Correct. And I know everybody really loves Sundays and me included, but it's just part of it, honestly. It's the way that we operate and have to operate. So it's kind of part of how the game's played. You've got to fundraise and have a little skin in the game and, in order to do these things and have these opportunities, so.
Well, I mean, I understand the reasoning for all this, but I sure would hate to see a group be eligible to go to state competition
Right.
and not have the funds
Right,
to take care of that.
right.
So I think we need some way of,
Typically, so now's the time of year that clubs are developing their budgets for next year. It's kind of a good thing to say, hey, guess what? If you wanna do this next year, you better start selling your candy bars now. You better, get your plans for your car washes or whatever. Just because,
Well, every program that you've mentioned so far, I believe has a booster club of some sort or in-club fundraising, like I'm pretty sure I've seen fundraising for FFA, FCCLA, and FBLA, and NLP, and all of them.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure everybody does it, it's just one of those things where.
some
We
do,
gotta
honestly,
hear
some
it.
don't. Some do a lot and some don't do much at all, and some get to crunch time and realize they need some fundraisers, so. It's just kind of like getting the word out, hey, plan ahead, develop your budget for next year. You may need to do a fundraiser or two. But again, we're still providing a pretty good package for anybody that wants to go somewhere, so.
I think that'll be the key, making sure they understand.
Yeah.
Got to budget these.
Well, and if you all approve this, I would really clearly communicate this out, especially with the middle school and high school and the bookkeepers and all the other coaches and club sponsors to make sure that they understand. I actually sent this to the high school bookkeeper and said, look at this, am I missing anything, or do you think this is reasonable, just to get her perspective, because she obviously deals with this the most, but,
Do we still have a fishing team?
the bass fishing team.
Yeah,
They qualified ones.
yeah, your surprises are like them, chair, basketball a few years ago, things like that.
They wouldn't know where to get passed together because they had to take their boats and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Jeff wouldn't let him pull that boat behind.
We put a hitch on a bus, but it didn't work out. Yeah, get fishtailing.
I'm
I
only,
can just remember that the parents wanted me to give some money, and I'm like, well, wait a minute.
I'm on the bet that those kids that are doing that fishing have parents that also like to fish, they probably have a truck that can pull the boat.
There you go.
So if you're, for these proposed changes, we can get it in KSBA format. This is a procedure.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
didn't-
ready for review.
I didn't do that part yet, just because I didn't know, I just kind of wanted to pitch it, and then if you all think you're interested, we'll send that on to get that revised. Just the clarification and the cap on the hotel lodging is the only thing I was looking
I realize it's not voting on, but
no,
we can discuss it now.
Right.
I kind of feel like I'm on board with it.
everybody's not gonna be here, so I assume
at. Okay,
And I definitely wouldn't want to do what some of the counties do with giving very little.
yeah,
right.
sure, yeah, I want to encourage and, support whoever wants to go do whatever,
See what you want to do about 100%. We may not have a lot of money, but I think we can pull it together.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook is full of our kids on state competitions and all sorts of things we're doing. We want to encourage.
But Tyler, you're exactly right. I've seen teams this year go to Sweet 16 and asking for fundraisers to pay for the hotel room. You're like, totally.
Hmm.
So, you know, you don't want to be in that predicament totally, but
Well, I'd just like to say that for some sports, I mean, their chances of going to state are very rare. I mean, they're not gonna go that many times. Those booster clubs typically have the most money.
Sure.
The ones who are going, make some beta clubs, they're in the negative right now with their activity clubs at school. So, but they are the groups that typically do go every year.
Right.
I will say that you have been very generous with what you have done with state tournaments, and we
I
do
agree.
appreciate that, but I think that adjustment won't affect
I still
students'
think,
abilities to be able to go.
think it's been very generous. I still think it's pretty generous, honestly.
well, to Matt's point, and Anthony and I were just discussing, you know, baseball is going, it's not a state trip, but they're going out of state on spring break. So they started fundraising almost a year ago. So like those groups know, that's not state, but that gives you an example. There is a path to do it. You just have to plan.
If anybody wants a candy bar, let me know.
We'll put a link at the bottom.
That'd be perfect. I don't even know what all I'm selling right now.
Move on to 4K, board policy regarding daily per diem.
Okay, so here's something else. These are just some items that have kind of stuck in my head that I'm like, you know, I kind of want to visit or revisit. So this is something we talked about and changed maybe 2 years ago. The current daily per diem rate for meals is $50, and I said we are seeking, I'm seeking to adjust the board policy 03.125, which is certified expense reimbursement under the heading food, and board policy 03.225, classified expense reimbursement under the heading food, by adding that receipts must be submitted for reimbursement. So the way our policy reads now, if you go on an overnight stay for school-related business, or go to a conference, you'll receive $50 a day for your meals, and you do not have to turn in a receipt, which I also think is pretty generous and a good thing. And I'm not asking that we decrease the amount. So if someone does go on one of these trips and spends $50, they will get reimbursed up to $50. But asking for the receipts, just because I realize that probably everybody that's going on an overnight trip is not having to spend $50 because you're either not gone, you know, you come home early the next morning, or the conference provides your breakfast and your lunch. You know, I don't think that most people are having to spend the $50. And it's not wrong that people are turning in the reimbursement, because that's what the policy says, $50 a day. But I feel like asking for receipts will just allow us to reimburse people for what they're actually spending. So I'm really not looking to hurt anybody's pocketbook. If you're spending $50, then you'll still get $50. But if you have an overnight stay and you turn in $30 of receipts for day one and $25 for the second day, then you'll be reimbursed $55 in total instead of $100. So just asking for a little bit of documentation there, and not really looking at it as a money saving thing, although I mean it definitely probably will. I just think it's the right thing to do to ask for receipts to go with that. I really doubt there are too many districts that have that, you know, amount, just say it doesn't matter what you spend, give it here.
I thought, when I went over this, I don't know whether this is doable or not, but can we do $25 for a half a day? Like, we go to Louisville Thursday night,
Right,
then we come home Sunday afternoon.
right,
So I'm gone to Louisville on Thursday, but I'm just there half a day.
right. We had looked at when we made this change, we increased, I think it was 2 years ago, 30. I think we went 30 to 50, and, you know, I had kind of pitched, we could have a reimbursement form where you check mark, like, what time of the day did you leave, and so if you only traveled from 5 PM on, you would only be reimbursed like $25. I still think asking for receipts kind of will have the same impact, because if you're traveling just on Thursday night, you would only have a receipt for supper to turn in, and it would,
Well, you see, I stopped Thursday at Walmart in Lawrenceburg, and I get Pepsi and chips and a fruit salad. I spent $50 Thursday night, but then that's what I snapped on the whole rest of the time.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I'll have the $50, and then I can stop at the steakhouse on Sunday
Yeah,
and
right.
spend $50 for
Right.
lobster.
So the end result is Leanne is asking for a little integrity.
Well, and not implying there's
Right.
there's been a lack of integrity. I'm just making our policy a little bit more airtight.
Reimbursed with it, what you spend.
Yeah, I think that's
If
fair.
you only spend 20, then you
You
should
get
get
$20,
$50.
Yeah.
Years ago, you had to turn in receipts.
Right.
This was
I would-
changed.
I'm gonna pull a John Kerry and I'm gonna vote against it after I vote for it.
Oh, dear.
But I think if 20 is good enough for kids, I'll be good enough for the adults.
Mhm.
I mean, which I can eat cheap too, like, you know, I don't have
Mhm.
a sophisticated palate, you know?
Right.
But what about me?
They can't eat for $20.
Hmm.
I said, the child can't eat for $20.
We're assuming they can
Yeah.
on the last policy.
They can't.
I've got 3 9-year-olds at home, I can pay my credit, so $20 a day for kids, not that. But at the same time, we have to have money to make it work.
Yes.
I mean, I would not fight it from that.
Now, I'm fine with what it says as far as the, and I do think you should do receipts because, you know, I've went, I don't know how many conferences now I've been on. I don't know that I've ever spent that, you know, I get paid for it, but
Right.
I usually get eat breakfast there.
Yeah.
And one meal, they, someone will take it Saturday, so I'm making money on it, you know.
I don't mind it. I mean, you all let me know. The last time we talked about this, I polled a lot of districts and provided what they did. And most were less, or they were segmented, like, if you only travel this part of the day, you can only get this amount. Like, we can bring that back if you want to revisit that, but it doesn't. You all let me
Well, I
know.
don't wanna create an issue, I'm just making a point.
What about some of the conferences and stuff that because we are all speaking as board members and based on the conferences that we go to, but you attend different conferences than we do. Colleen, you do. Jeannie, I know you go to some conferences, right, that are different than what you do. I'm sure some of these other folks out there, Mr. Davis, I'm sure you guys do too. I mean, is $50 enough? Is it too much? Would $30 be enough?
I hate to ask that too,
Food is-
how many people are going on?
Right. I mean, it's-
On an overnight trip, it's mainly gonna be admins, district admins, principals. You do see some teachers going to maybe an overnight, a couple day conference in Louisville or something like that. I mean, so you will see.
He just went to technology conference.
Cooks, they go to conference.
But I will say from personal experience, when I go on an overnight, the meals are provided. I mean, I'm probably not out any meals or maybe one meal, because typically you're gonna have a breakfast, they're gonna provide lunch, they're gonna let you leave before it's time for supper. I mean,
Well, we could do this, check, and then, once you get, start getting receipts, you have the numbers to know.
okay,
Are people spending that much money?
okay.
I'd like to add into this too, tips not being included and valet parking not being included. Because I kind of feel like if you're going to a conference, if you can't walk from your car to where you're going, then you don't need to be going to the conference.
So a reasonable tip can be included with it. That's kind of a rule of thumb, that when you reimburse people for meals, if it's a sit-down meal where a tip is expected, you do
Oh, I'm
reimburse for the
sorry,
meal.
yeah, I meant like tipping people to carry your bags up to your room,
Oh.
things like that.
Yeah, no,
No.
It's not feelings, that's a separate issue.
okay, I got you.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah,
But I mean, I don't think we should allow, I don't think valet parking should be part of it. I don't think paying people to carry their bags up to their room should be part of it.
I guess if a parking fee is required for a conference, it should be reimbursed. Those are kind of a case by case. If I'm going to stay somewhere, I don't wanna have to pay out of pocket $30 a night if I have to, and typically you don't have to. The adult house, you don't have to pay.
Yes,
But
if it's optional.
Yeah. Right. And Melinda typically, well, I mean, everybody that submits a reimbursement for a trip like that has to be signed off by your building principal. And so it's kind of up to the principals to ask those type questions, or if it's a principal submitting, for whoever signs off on it here, depending on, what it is, to look at it and say, why would we pay this? Was there a reason we're paying for you to park? Okay, we had to pay to park, those are kind of case by case. I hate to see somebody pay something that is required and not get reimbursed for it.
Right, they're required.
Sure.
Required.
Sure.
Any other questions?
So what's the next step then? So we talk about this and say,
They're
yes, we
right.
agree with Leanne, we're gonna move it up to KSBA, or
Right.
I can get a draft from KSBA and
We have the first reading, or the 16th.
what about the valet and the baggage? Can we put that in our policy?
I would say I have to take a look at what the policy states, but I'll pull that and look at it with Colleen, and I can send it to you all, and if there are things we want to tweak on that, then we sure will.
I don't think it specifically says one way or the other.
Okay.
That's why I'm bringing
Okay.
that up.
Okay, we can grab that and see what it looks like and see what you all wanna change before we get to the
I
next
would be
meeting.
careful about saying no valet parking.
Mhm.
I've always been able to use the parking garage, but I remember we had, one of our staff here who was going, we weren't staying at the Golden House, we were staying someplace else, and parking was a bit away. And it was in Louisville, and she wasn't able to get in until dark. And she was told valet park, do not park in that garage and walk as a woman, and through Louisville, parking garage at night, that's just not safe.
Okay.
And then if somebody, like, if you say no, but they have an injury and can't, they can't walk that far. So I think you're required, I think where you said like, if you valet park, there needs to be a reason. It's not just because you
I would say
didn't feel like
no
walking.
optional valet without reasonable.
Right. And I think that that's something that the superintendent, because he has to sign off on them, would look at.
We can share.
We can look at that totals and fees part of that policy on the first page there, we can add to that, or if you think that needs to look here. It is,
I read over
the policy.
What if we look for the next meeting to add the receipts on for the meals, and the following month, we'll discuss the other fees? Will that be acceptable? That way we'll have a little bit of time to consider what it says and how we want to change it. Okay, all right, sounds good.
Okay, 4L, revised attendance incentive.
Okay, so I usually look at the attendance incentive every year just to kind of evaluate if it's working for us, or, if we're spending more money than we would be if we didn't have an attendance incentive. So, what I do is I'll look at the 3 complete school years prior to starting an attendance incentive and evaluate what we spent on subs those years. Then once we started the attendance incentive, I add what we spent those years on subs plus what we paid out for the incentive to see if that amount exceeds what we were paying on subs originally. And definitely the first couple of years we were doing it, we saw a big decrease in subs. Now, when I first started to look at it this year and to look at it since COVID, because COVID skewed all the numbers for subs, at first I was thinking, wow, it really looks like we're spending a whole lot more on subs even than we were before the attendance incentive, but then I was trying to look at it through some different lenses, and obviously we're paying more money to subs, especially in the classified realm than we were. So I worked with Marla, and we went through and evaluated what was a sub hourly, the classified sub hourly rate prior to the attendance incentive, and what are we paying now? And so I went back and adjusted numbers, because there might have been subs that were getting paid $7.25 an hour before the attendance incentive, which now might be getting paid $13.23 an hour. So I had to go back and say, all right, well, how many hours were we paying, and then recalculate it. So I kind of adjusted all the historical figures to match the rates that we're paying now. And of course, when I did that, it showed me that we aren't paying significantly more in subs than we were. Obviously, we were just paying a higher rate to our subs. And I did the same with certified. It hasn't changed significantly, but I did adjust for the certified sub rates. And so what I found once I made those adjustments is that we're basically spending the same amount of money now on subs and attendance incentive than we were spending on subs prior to putting this into place. So we're spending the same amount of money. We're incentivizing and rewarding employees for having good attendance. And fewer subs means it's better for kids. The fewer subs we have, the more teachers we have in classrooms. So after evaluating it, my plan was to either recommend we continue it or recommend that we not continue doing it. But I think after reviewing it, I think our spendings remain even, but we are having fewer subs in the classroom than we were back in 2014, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17. And we're rewarding our employees who had good attendance. So at this time, my recommendation is that we keep the bulk of the attendance incentive operating the way that it is. Does that make sense? I have a spreadsheet, but I'm not gonna share it because it's not gonna make a whole lot of sense because it's about 20 columns of adjustments and comparisons, but I think that keeping the attendance incentive is probably a good thing and a good thing for morale. So I'm gonna recommend that we keep it in place. However, there are a few changes, and I'm gonna kind of pitch this to Colleen that we might wanna change, that would make the processing of the attendance incentive easier, but she can probably explain that better than I can, so I'll just let her take that.
So some of the changes we made was you get $10 a month for every month you have, perfect attendance. And every attendance sheet gets filled out. A lot of times we'll go to the attendance clerk and they look it over, it goes to the principal for signing, comes to me, and I look up every single person in Red Rover or whatever absence we're using to check and see if they're correct and make corrections on the ones that aren't, which is great. And there's a bunch of them that are getting $10 and $20 because they had perfect attendance in August or perfect attendance in December, which are half months. And so I get done processing them, and then they have to go to be signed up as superintendent, every single one. And then they go to payroll, and it isn't a simple task for payroll at all. It is, for every one of those, they have to look up their employee number and put it on there. They have to do a separate payroll that's calculated, and then they have to go back in and take out retirement and take out this thing, because you can't have it because it's a separate check because it's an incentive. It is very labor intensive for each of these. So I would like to cut down on that and say, if you got 98% attendance or 100% attendance, you get the reward. If you may have 1 month where you didn't miss a day of work, that's a lot of processing and labor for $10.
Ours is about a semester. You have to have perfect attendance.
That's where I want to move
Fall or
this,
spring.
that it's by the
Entire
semester.
And so that's how this is, it's
And it
paid
will
out
be
twice
paid.
a year. And so she asked me to pull, or maybe payroll did, in January when we paid out the attendance incentive. There were 90, I think, employees that were paid $40, either 40, 30, 20, or $10. And so, I mean, you consider keying that in and checking those sheets, that's where the concern is coming from. Of course, I don't care, I don't have to do any of that, but for the people that are having to get their hands on it and process and do all that, her recommendation was maybe that we tweak it to remove those $10 monthlies and to keep the 98% award and the 100% award.
And then I did a little changing, because when I made my changes, I took it to payroll and talked to them and asked what they thought and if they had input. Because my part, as tedious as mine is nothing compared to what payroll does with these.
Yeah, sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, so I took it to our payroll people and asked them about it, and they asked that we, because again, it's a separate payroll. So when they're not here on time by the deadline, they're doing another separate payroll for those, and maybe they're doing a separate payroll for 5 or 6. And then, so we tweaked that deadline, and said, it has to be to the board office by this date, so that they can process it for the payroll. And they can get it all done at one time instead of 3 different times. Right. I also clarified in there that 98% attendance was, because that's really confusing for a lot of people. There was things that I saw people had questions on, but that was you could miss 2 days. per semester and still have 98%. And so we just clarified that.
Is this incentive program considered?
Yeah, goes through payroll, shows up on your W-2.
Is there any way we can change it where it's not a promise and it's not?
No. We can't do it on this.
Had to ask.
No.
Why would else make it money?
There has to be something achieved that we pay out, so we can't call a bonus, so it is called an incentive, but you have to achieve this attendance mark and before you can receive that. And it has to go through payroll, we have to take out all the taxes and all that jazz.
So after taxes and all that, what are they making, $100?
$7.
Oh, on $10?
I mean, I'm just saying from a principal standpoint, the number of things I sign a day is crazy.
Right.
I mean, you have to spend half your day just signing everything,
Right.
writing up everything. And,
Probably not much of $10 left.
yeah, I mean, it seems like,
Could we do it for an annual payout or the annual payout? I mean, at least that way your chunks are a little bit bigger, it's a little bit, more cut down.
I think staff would,
Yeah,
they would appreciate it much more semester wise.
And when you're making, because the 98% is $150, so even with taxes, you're getting a decent chunk. And if you have, that's the 98%, if you have 100% attendance for that semester, you're getting $250. You get a nice chunk of money. It's when you had $20.
Right. No, I understand, I'm just saying, I mean, I get it, everybody wants the money, my question would just be, is it better to get a $500 check or $250 checks? It's all about perspective, that's the reason I ask. I mean, in the end, I don't care if it's a penny or, but for the amount of man hours that you're spending, even if you can cut it down from monthly to annually and do it on one check, maybe even through the summer, for those that get in their checks through the summer, right? Because some teachers can do that, they can get paychecks through the summer.
They're paid out by June 30th,
Oh, by
so
June
this
30th,
is,
okay. I'm just looking for other alternatives,
It-
to make it easier on everybody. And that way the principal's on time, as much as that didn't happen again.
So what you're recommending is the per semester.
yes, per semester, and that we get rid of the monthly. And if you do that, that's gonna cut down on it by a lot. That's gonna more than that.
No.
Well, like,
Three per semester payroll, three and up until Christmas, for sure, and three after Christmas payroll, right? August, and September, right, October, you do payrolls monthly, right?
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
It's a different
Yeah.
payroll. It's not like the regular payroll.
no, it's a special payroll,
is what it's called.
and that's why it's so time consuming, it can't be run like they do.
We have a question. All right, we'll move to 4M, working board meetings. We've been talking about trying to save money and cut areas, and one of the things that we talked about a little bit is working board meetings, and I just wanted to throw this out there, and we can come to an agreement at our next meeting, but our annual, we've started having, I think, several years, I don't know, Bruce might remember, when they started having working board meetings and then regular board meetings. And I just wanted to share that each one of us gets paid $150 for each meeting that we attend. And so for our board, that part of what it costs is $750 for each working board meeting, which is once a month. And our mileage is also paid, which for, and Colleen has come with this amount. For the five of us, it's 110 miles, so that's $55. Our annual cost for our attorney presence at our working meetings is a total of $6,642, and that doesn't go in his pocket, that goes to his company. But his travel is $403.50, and his time here is on an average of an hour is $150. So if you look at that, that is a cost to the district of $16,302 annually. And although I value the working board meetings, it just would mean that our regular meetings would be longer, that we would do our discussions and actions at the same time. But I just wanted to throw that out there and talk about discussion, feedback from the others, how they feel about that. And I think that we can do it. A lot of what we do is regular things that's annually that we have, we talk about every month. I mean, a lot of the things that like Leanne's brought to us is something that every year that is brought to us. And so there's not a lot of discussion about that. It's something that just happens and we take action on it. Several times we do have long discussions and need more information, maybe from what, but I did want to bring that to the attention. That is one way the board can participate and help with the savings and cost. So,
Grant, if you participated virtually, what does that remove from, does it completely remove travel time and knowledge, or is that from an office, or?
No, I work from home, but I only bill you all as though I'm leaving Lexington instead of leaving the north side of Winchester, so it would completely eliminate my drive. And I just go for the time when I'm online with you in a meeting.
I just want to throw in there that we have already discussed removing Grant from attending one of our meetings for a month unless there was something specific that is required, that the board chair or the superintendent feels that the attorney needs to be there. So although it's listed on here as $6,642 per meeting to have our attorney, that portion is being removed from the other meetings. So it's a little misleading to have it on here for this, because I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but the difference between a working meeting and a regular meeting is the power. There's only two kinds of meetings that boards have: regularly scheduled meetings and special meetings. We just call this one a working meeting because we talk more and do less action. But it's the same thing. So we have already discussed with Grant and provided him with that feedback. So that $6,642 is potentially already removed. So in essence, we have already participated in that way financially. So throw that out there. I'll let anybody else talk that wants to talk about it.
We gave you that feedback, and I completely forgot about it, when would that start?
Unless y'all told me differently, I was not planning on coming in 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
I think we decided to work on the regular meeting this would be the most crucial time if we had any kind of issues.
Yeah, if you have questions on contracts or policy revisions, this seems to be the discussion meeting, so. And as I've told you all, even at those meetings, if you need me to join just for a particular topic, or if you wanted to say, let's take a 5-minute recess so the superintendent and chair can go place a quick phone call, I don't need to be online for an entire meeting in order for you to still get legal advice when you need it. So my dad's advice to school districts the entire time he represented school districts was, he joked about it, but said, you don't need to pay me to watch the third graders sing.
Right.
And that's just, I enjoy seeing all the recognitions that you all do at your regular meeting, but you all don't need to pay me to be sitting here through that process, and I'm happy to sit at home and wait for a phone call if you need me. You don't need to pay me to spend 2 hours on the road.
For May, you'll start. You'll be back.
So I was planning on doing that and not coming on the 16th unless you all tell me.
Okay.
This month.
I had somebody contact me that was upset that I got $150 per meeting. And I explained to them that that's all I get. And so I went back and looked at my income taxes. And if you're watching, lady, 2023, I grossed $5,550. Grossed the entire year. 2024, I grossed $4,650. And of course, then last year, I was just on the board from July out. I got $2,550. And when something happens, I can spend as much as 30 hours a week on the phone trying to calm everybody down. January, or I can't go to Walmart, or I can't go to a ball game. So, I mean, it's lots and lots and lots of hours. And I try my best to read all my attachments.
Well, I was gonna say, it's not just the time we spend here in the meeting. It's all those attachments that have to be looked at and studied very carefully about, and I think Philip does probably a better job than I do on looking at those, because he's very thorough. And I appreciate that, but it is a lot more time than what people understand.
This person worked in the school system, and I said, okay, how about you give me half your salary? And the discussion was changed.
your yearly salary.
Even with the money that we made going to the conferences and stuff, it averages out to about $375 a month for the board member, if you're curious. What we grossed last year, because I mean, it's
I got this off my-
I'm pretty sure it's.
Yeah.
So my W-2 from the Board of Education this year is at $4,500. So if you divide that by 12 months, that's $375 a month before taxes. So if you have a board member who does nothing but come to the board and say, yep, then you're paying $375 for that. But if you're talking to your board members and having phone conversations with them, and Facebook messages, and
They're at your events.
they're at your events and going to your schools and everything like that, I mean, I figured it out one time, I think I make about 12 cents an hour for the amount of time that I put into what I do. I can't speak for anybody else, because I don't know what anybody else does offline, but 12 cents an hour for that is not a lot of money considering the amount of responsibility that I have. And my biggest thing about work meetings is, yep, 90% of this probably is pretty standard, I get it. Some things are just, I mean, we just have to do it. But for the questions that come up that require some thought and some careful consideration, I don't want to have one meeting a month where Leanne is up here talking about all this money, and hey, we can do this. And we're asking questions and I'm just not getting an understanding of it. Now let's vote on it. Do I spend $150,000 or more right now? Okay, that's some information. Maybe I want to think about it. Maybe I want to talk to the principal. Maybe I want to talk to some teachers. Y'all know I got questions, so I'm going to ask them. I don't feel comfortable making this kind of decision.
Well, there'll be a considerable savings there from legal.
Well, I took, at our last training, I took plus key performance indicators for Kentucky Public Districts. It was the financial aspect of it. And this guy says the very first thing we need to look at it is whether we've got the right number of employees for the students that we've got. You know, we need to really look at that. And then he stressed how surprised you would be with what you could save on your electric bill. And asked, as board members, if we knew how many microwaves and refrigerators was in the classroom. And for us to not go by the electric bill because electric companies charge different for kilowatts, but for us to do an open record request for the kilowatts for across their district. And I thought, Lee, it's gonna love me when I turn that.
More candy bars for you.
And, you know, and it really made me think. It really made me think. I mean, Mr. Wilkie, you know how much it costs to keep the football field lights on one night?
I do not.
You know, there's been several times that we've had at school and one of the field's lights is on. You know, do a campaign and let's get the lights turned out when we're not there. And, I mean, I know we've got to save. We should have been saving all along.
We'll say that a lot of districts, and I know that we may be able to do some things in this nature, but just like the high school renovation, most districts are putting in lights that you can control from a computer and turn those on and off and on timers. I think that would definitely be something that would save a lot of money and LED lighting.
Well, when he was on the electric, he was also, where's your heat, where's your air conditioning? And I told him he's turned off because I was at an academic meeting that the heat had been turned off and didn't get turned back on. Well, we had an academic meeting, and I like to froze to death. So I thought, I know the heat was turned off. But, you know, I truly understand what it is to be on a budget.
I remember when that came out about the teachers having those little refrigerators in the classroom. And a lot of them were taken out of the classrooms, and you talk about the morale of those teachers.
I know.
That was not.
Yeah. Well-
I just wanted to bring this up and throw it out there, that's something for us to consider, so that we're doing our due, and if it's totally up to the board to have a work on it. We'll move on. 4N, shortened school day week for special education students, and,
This fall. So this fall is seeking approval from the board for shortened school day for a week for 2 students, one medically necessary therapy or doctor's recommendations. Student 51, 4 hours every Monday, and 1 hour every Wednesday for medically necessary therapy. And Student 52, shortened days on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 8 to 12:30 at the by the ARC. And attend Tuesday and Thursday from 8 to 11:30. And then leave for 10 minutes. I think that's necessary.
Any questions?
No, I do have a comment. This is going back to the last one as well, kind of ties into it. But one of the comments that was made was, you guys sitting out there, staff, part of it, are tired of coming to 2 meetings where you have to present twice, and it's the same old thing. And we get it, especially something like this, because first of all, we don't know what students you're talking about, we don't know the medical history, and there's really nothing for us to say. This kind of goes back to what Christine said about sometimes there's just things that we have to say. I made a proposal last week about, or last time we all got together, about how we could structure our board meetings more efficiently, so that way you as the staff do not have to show up twice and present twice, and make it more efficient for you guys as well. So that's on the table as well, where we keep both meetings, but we streamline it so that way things are more efficient. So Julie or Jeannie or whoever's up there doesn't have to say the same thing twice when there's no discussion to be had about the item. Common sense and department. Sorry, didn't mean to hijack what you were doing, but it played right into it well, because the two conversations go together.
For, Zillow, is it Zillow?
So,
The,
so ILP completion is part of the minimum requirements for high school graduation, and our contract with our current provider is up. Our counselors have looked at different demonstrations from different companies and have chosen Zello. They are requesting Zello to provide ILP completion for students grades 6 through 12. And the district is requesting approval to accept the 3-year quote from Zello for 26-27 and 28-29 for a total premium of $28,090.50 for grades 6 through 12. And then also, Chad can help me on this, 5th graders have to do portfolio pieces for their ILP as well.
Yeah, with the new accountability system, they put in place the local accountability and what that's gonna look like. So what we are planning on doing at some point in the next year or two is implementing defenses of learning at 5th grade, where students will have like a portfolio and they'll stand up and present things they've learned. And it's gonna be very individualized. So it's not cookie cutter presentations, and they'll present to panels. And so what we'd like to do is have this program in place from 3rd grade through 5th, so that they can collect artifacts, pictures of projects they do, and things like that. So when they do their defensive learning, they'll have all these things they can pull from to make the presentation.
So I requested 2 separate quotes, one for just 5th grade and one for grades 3 through 5, and they were the same amount. So I'm requesting a total premium of $12,000 for 3 years for grades 3 through 5. We have submitted a request for Gear Up to pay for the ILPs for grades 6 through 12. They won't pay for 3 through 5, but we have submitted that request. However, we have not heard back yet, so that's still a possibility if they could. Regardless if they pay or not, we do need to go ahead and get this started, because we will have to roll over all the students' information into this new program for next year.
any questions?
ILP is what?
Individual learning plan.
Okay, so that's probably standard term, been around for a while. Sorry, I'm not an educator, but what program are we using right now?
And the cost for that was a 5-year quote that they haven't been real happy with reports and things, not getting the information they need. And it was about $9,800 a year 5 years ago. So it's really comparable as far as the amount.
Any other questions? Okay, 5P, Christie contracts entry, thanks to you.
Our current contract with Gavin Reynolds and Family Services is going to expire June 30th. And so to continue with Chris Services, I'm asking that we renew the contract for another 2 years.
Any questions?
I have a question. Under this contract, under B, general personnel number 1 says, ensure that center coordinators and center staff spend 100% of their time, which is paid with funds provided under this agreement, in and of these functions directly related to the operation of the center and center program services and activities. I know that our personnel do a lot more things than just personnel. So my question is are we paying them, are they getting paid their frisky contract and then we're paying extra on top of it for the duties that they're doing outside of their frisky duties?
Those risky duties pretty much fit into the other things, is my understanding. There's optional components, and it may look like that they're doing other things, but really, in reality, it fits into the FRIS grant. Unless you know something that I don't, you know.
No, I mean, it very well could be that my understanding of what their frisky duties is limited, and I'm not going to in any way that we have them doing something different. I just wanted to know if there was, how we structured that, or was there some other pay?
There's required components,
Mhm.
and then there's optional components, and so they can choose what they want to do. A lot of that is school-based stuff that may not look exactly like it's a FRIS component.
Do we ever get audited under this program?
Oh, yes, all the time. So, I mean, we had one program audited this year, so
Any other questions?
it's not been a problem in the past as well.
That's what I want to do.
4Q 2026-2027 NTI plans, Anthony.
This plan is currently, well, the plan that I proposed to you is almost identical to last year's plan that you approved. The only changes is in the traceable communications. I changed a few program names that the school is using for technology wise. Other than that, it's essentially the same plan that was approved last year.
Question.
I'm gonna let you off the hook on this one.
Thank you.
Hey, I know you.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, thank you.
For our, Mrs. Justice. And I apologize, we should let you come first.
You're okay, you're fine. We get really enlightened when we're in here. We learn a lot of things. The, middle school, high school archery team, we have got about 15 old of the vinyl targets that have the mesh coverings with the old stuffing inside of them, that were previous to our current tourney targets that we use. The targets that we use every day at practice right now are foam targets that have large dice inserts. And so what we would like is approval to be able to sell the older targets and use that to put back into the new targets that the archers are using every day at practice, just to help keep and maintain those. And I mean, the current ones have been sitting in the corner since Richard and I have been coaching about 3 years. And I think they were actually purchased back in Ricky Mullins' time. So just looking to kind of, get rid of those, recycle back into what the kids are currently using now at practice.
So put them in surplus.
Correct.
So, any questions?
Grant, would we need to
No,
put those up for bid, or could we offer them for a set price to sell, or what would that look like after we sell those?
Yeah, I think it's just like anything else, you just need to do your best to get fair market value, and if that's by bid, or if that's by a fixed price, you just need to get close to what you believe they can get.
Thank you, Philip. 4S Library Program,
Steve, Betty, and I think Jeff, I believe they go check Cooler. She is asking to surplus the van, and because my understanding, it's no longer usable, cannot be repaired. I think they repaired and repaired and repaired, so she's asking that that be surplus.
any questions?
Do we have a plan for the place? I know that's probably a question.
She has already received approval and purchased everything.
I don't know everything that she does, I'm not sure that maybe that's why I'm not in that.
Any other questions? Any public comments? Okay. Do I hear a motion to move to executive session for KRS 61.8101F discussions which might lead to the discipline of the student. Tyler, second.
I'll second.
Gloria, vote Gloria.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
And And I vote yes. session, no discussion, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Philip, vote Gloria.
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
I got this